Paseka Letsatsi. A very good morning to you, Paseka. What are these? Tell us how these plans are unfolding.
Good morning, Desiree, and good morning to the viewers as well. Indeed, we can confirm that the payment for both the old age grant and disability grant will be paid on the 30th and the 31st of March 2020, respectively. All other forms of grant will be paid on the 1st of April, and this is as per the directive of the Minister of Social Development, Lindy Wezulu, because the intention is to make sure that we avoid large crowds, especially during paydays.
So you're spreading payouts over several days, as opposed to, do you usually do this process over one day?
No, definitely. I think what we're doing, remember, all grants are paid on the 1st of every month. However, because of the schedule of the COVID-19, we decided that old age and disability grants should be paid on the 30th and the 31st. However, we also want to appeal to our beneficiaries that they must not come to the banks or to the paypoints on the first day of the month. Their money will be there in the account, it's secured, it won't go anywhere. Beneficiaries can choose to go to any point of sale, or they can choose to go to any merchant or a bank at the time, which is conducive for them. They can go on the second or the third or any other day, which they deem safe, because we don't want large crowds. We have already spoken to the post office so that there are other cash dispensing machines which are distributed so that we limit people to hundreds.
Is there a process underway, and if so, how far is it of fully automating this process?
We are processes of rolling out the biometrics and so on. But the other thing that we are doing, we are meeting with relevant stakeholders. The intention is to make sure that we have the smooth process of payment as possible, because we know, for an example, that people will panic and they would want to go and get their money and so on. Hence, we are saying in some instances, if they don't choose to go to the pay point, because this is where people will flock to, there are other payment channels which beneficiaries can go to. They can go to, like your merchants, they can go to the banks, they've got all other avenues where they can be able to access their money.
But are you able to tell us what percentage of beneficiaries are automated and their payouts go directly to their bank accounts?
We basically have a number of close to 3 million of people who get their payment. The number of people who get payment from the paypoint has reduced drastically, which makes us very happy that people are using available methods, which are very much convenient for them. Look, people have the right to choose to go to a paypoint. It is their right. However, we would want people to get their money any time or any day. If they want to go on the 4th or the 5th, they can be able to do that.
At last check, and I'm not sure if this is still the case, there were about 17 million beneficiaries, and you say only 3 million of those are able to get them directly through their bank accounts.
I'm specifically referring to 3 million of would have the 2.8 million of the old age. You would have about 1.2 million of the disability grant, and all other about close to 9 to 10 million of the child support grant.
Of course, the conversation changes as well when you're talking about urban or rural areas. Are there different interventions?
There are different interventions. What we have requested, especially in the rural areas where people will prefer mostly the payment through the pay points, we have requested our provincial leadership to make sure that they engage all relevant stakeholders so that this information can be disseminated easily. We are not only going to do through it, the media. They are going to engage with the traditional leadership. They are going to engage with their councillors, so that we know that if you use those particular platform, the information can be able to disseminate very easily and quickly to our beneficiaries.
So, of course, we're just a few days away from the payout dates. This conversation we're having, this interview we're having, goes some way in terms of creating awareness. What other platforms are you going to be using?
Yes, there are various platforms which we are using. We are using churches. We are using all other avenues available to ourselves. Like I said earlier on, traditional leadership is very important. Councillors, especially engage them at the ward level, because we know that they are able to call meetings and be able to engage with the communities. We will be actually also going through community engagement to make sure that we engage people. People are able to understand the information which we want them to have. But what we always want to appeal is that people must not flock to the banks or to the merchants on the 1st of April. They must try to make sure that they stay. Their money will be there in their account. It will be safe. They can go on the 2nd or the 3rd. They will definitely find their money, because the intention here is to protect our employees as much as we want to protect the beneficiaries and the South Africans at large.
That very call you're making for people not to flock to the queues, that's being made for people not to flock to the churches. So that option might be a bit limited there. But Paseka, once you go to the pay points, what is SASSA going to be doing in terms of what is being done literally everywhere now, ensuring that the areas of business are sanitized?
Yeah, look, we have basically distributed protective kits to the staff members of SASSA. But secondly, what we have done, we have requested the leaders, especially at local level, to make sure that they engage with the staff members to be able to teach them in terms of how to keep hygiene, because it's in the interest of their health and the interest of the health of the beneficiaries to make sure that if there's any case, it is not spread across, but they take preventative measures to make sure that they are protected and the beneficiaries.
So your call for people to come through in smaller numbers, do you have restrictions? Do you have limitations in terms of how many people you can serve at a go?
Look, it's not we do not necessarily have to, we don't have a choice but to make sure that we step up and make sure that we save lives and we protect everybody. The number of 100 is the number which has been set by the president. And secondly, what we are doing, like we are saying that we need to have as many cash dispensing machines as possible, so that we do not have people at one cash dispensing machine. You will end up having about 500 people. So at least if you know that you got 500 people who are getting their grants at a particular pay point, you can be able to have 5 dispensing machines and try to make sure that you direct people to a relevant queue. And we also want to encourage the beneficiaries to observe all other methods which they are made to make sure that they are protected against the COVID-19.
Thanks for talking to us. But just before we let you go, over the weekend, the minister had that situation where she had to apologize for statements she made on social media about the outbreak. Take us through that statement, that apology.
Look, I think the statement was issued from the office of the ministry in terms of whatever happened, and I think the relevant people who represent the minister can be able to speak at length with regard to that matter.
Thanks for talking to us this morning.
It's a pleasure.
Paseka Letsatsi is from SASSA. Most of Durban's popular